Hey, everybody. Welcome to Love and Reload, the voice of the relocation industry. I am your host, Ben Cross, and I'm so blessed and honored to be here with my friend Tom Wagner from Micron. Tom, what's going on? How you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing great, man. How about yourself?
Oh, dude, I'm blessed, man. I'm just happy to be here. We made it. We made it. We
We
got
did,
it going.
we did.
We're here, dude.
Not sure if I deserve to work for a tech company, given what we just went through to get me on here, but here we are.
It's all good, man. It's all good. This is great. We made it. We persevered, dude. Hey, get in the comments, hit that like button. Let us know who you are, where you are. Check in with us. We're going to be talking to Tom about kind of his story, how he got here today, how he's built such an incredible team. I'm so impressed with his team. And I've told him that on several occasions, so I get to kind of dig into that and kind of some leadership principles and things of that nature. And just kind of hear kind of the personal side of global mobility and this practice that we're in. But Tom, I got to ask you something. I got a confession to make. Okay, can I tell you a secret?
Absolutely, man. This is private, right? There's nobody listening.
It's totally private. Nobody's watching.
Perfect.
I've never been to Idaho, and I got to ask you, what's it like?
Well, first off, Idaho's closed. We're not taking any more people.
You're at capacity.
We're at capacity.
Fire marshal called.
I'm one of the ones that moved here from California, and I absolutely love it. I've been here for about 7 years, a little over 7 years, and it's a beautiful place. There's a lot that Idaho has to offer. A lot of recreation opportunities, a lot of outdoor stuff. Boise's a neat little town. It's small, kind of one of everything. It's not for everyone. People that want a lot more things to do and aren't so into the outdoors are going to have a hard time living here, but I absolutely love it. I'm looking out my window right now at horribly clouded skies. So summer's over. We get the 4 seasons. It's pretty evenly, about 3 months of each, and we're right in the thick of fall, getting into the winter season right now. But it's gorgeous here. There's so much accessibility to recreation, and I think it's the last I read is about 80+% of the state is public owned, and it's all very, very accessible. So if you like hiking and camping and dirt biking and all that stuff, this is the place, man.
Do you hike, camp, and dirt bike?
Yes, and yes.
Dude, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Having fun with it. Yeah.
So I've never been to Idaho. If I go, where's the place? Where do I need to go?
What do you like?
Honestly, let's be honest. I like to go have a good time. I'm more into having a nice dinner and a glass of wine or something like that. Maybe seeing some culture. I'll say that. Get me out in the woods. I'm afraid I'll be barefoot. I'm a little scared.
Well, you don't have to outrun the bear. You only have to outrun one other person in your group. So
I can push them down.
Yeah, exactly. Knock them over and take off. There's a great food scene here. I haven't had a bad meal at any of the restaurants. There's a really there's an up and coming wine scene here. The breweries are pretty killer. I'd say if you're going to do one thing, you got to see the blue. You got to go to a Boise State football game.
Yeah,
it looks a lot better in person than it does on TV. That blue turf, it's not nearly as obnoxious when you're in person, and they're making a great run this year. So that's a don't miss piece.
Incredible run they're making this year. Well, but they've been good for a long time, and they've just not been able to get kind of the opportunity, it feels like, in the postseason because of the limited playoff structure. And now you got the 12-team playoff. And, are they for real this year? Are they going to make it past the first game? I mean, I don't even know who they're playing first game.
Yeah, I don't know how it's set up right now either. I haven't found that out, but they're for real.
Samara, let us know who Boise State's playing in the college football playoff. Super producer Samara is on the case.
Awesome.
She's we call her stats and information around here. Let's check in with everybody in the comments here. Hit that like button. Get in the comments. If you've got questions for Tom, we're taking questions here as well. Okay, I've got my own questions, but we'll always prioritize you, the viewer. Rob Zeitz checking in. Hello from rainy Cambridge, Mass.
Ooh,
what's up, Rob? Good to see you, buddy. Chelsea checking in, joining from Idaho Falls, Idaho.
What's up?
That
nice.
Good. Drew Phillips checking in, looking good. Thanks, Drew.
Drew's always sharp. Drew's always sharp. Well-dressed man.
Love Drew there. Lynn Greenberg checking in from New York.
Hey, Lynn.
University of Nevada, Las Vegas.
Okay, they're playing. No. They're playing. So Boise State's playing University of Las. Okay,
UNLV. No, that was last week. So they played UNLV.
That was last week. We need the college football playoff one.
That was the conference championship. They might not have it announced yet. I don't know.
Have they not announced it?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure they have people buying tickets to get there.
On it.
So yeah.
Rob Zeitz, will a Cowboys fan like Ben be able to comprehend watching a winning team like Boise State? Rob, dog.
I didn't know you were a Cowboys fan, man. I might not have taken this gig.
I'm a big Cowboys fan. I'm a big Cowboys fan. All right. Samara's saying they haven't announced the playoff lineup yet.
Okay, that's a thought.
Martin says our drivers pay a lot of respect along Idaho roads during this time of the year. Okay, cool. Nikki Thomas checking the Thomas, the best of the best. Excited for the convo today. Go BSU.
So I went to San Diego State, and Nikki's part of my team, and she went to Boise State, and those are two big rivals. So we always have this back and forth every time. Boise. I have to admit, Boise State's my second favorite team. I'll always bleed the red and black from San Diego State, but I can back the home team.
Yeah. What are those?
Yeah.
The Aztecs, Tom?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Nice. I didn't know Boise or San Diego were states. So there you go. I learned something.
That's right.
every day.
Yeah.
Very good. I got to ask you though, Tom. You've got a pretty cool job. It looks like you're running this kind of multinational program. It's one of the more I would say well-respected programs, honestly, in our industry. I don't know if you knew that or not, but people
Nice to
speak
hear.
really highly of you and the program and the fantastic team you built. But I got to ask you, before we kind of get into what you do today, how did you kind of get here where you are?
Wow. How much time do we have?
1 hour.
Okay. Well, I'll take 59 minutes of it, and I'll leave one.
Stretch it.
Yeah, I took one of those crooked paths, man. I started off, actually started my adult working career as an auto mechanic, and
Wow.
was twisting wrenches at a little mom and pop shop, and learned how to run a business and learn how to be a good hard worker. Learned that auto mechanic is not an old man's job, so I went back to school to work on getting a desk job. I ended up finishing college, and I got a job in a corporate recreation setting, doing health and wellness, well-being kind of stuff, and that sort of just pushed me through the benefits department, and I just landed on global mobility. And then that was kind of how I got into global mobility, and that was 18 years ago.
Did you say I want to go for that? That's where I want to sit, or did somebody kind of come up to you and say, "Hey, we got this opportunity. We think you'd be great for it." How did that transpire?
Yeah, it was a need. I was working in benefits and working in international benefits, and they had some motion, some movement in the organization, and they needed somebody to fill in and take. So luckily, the person who was leaving the role was still there, so she's able to train me up and work next to me for six months to a year, and really get me squared away. Took some classes from the old ORC, and took the basics and just kind of took it from there. So no, it wasn't something that I sought after, but it was something that it landed in my lap, and I just kind of took off with it. I loved it.
But it's kept you here for, you said 18 years.
It has. It's every day's a new day, man. It's wild, some of the stuff you deal with. It's so fun and challenging. Yeah, just a good time. Couldn't think of doing anything else right now, except retiring.
Yeah. Well, don't retire yet. We still got to finish.
Yeah.
But you talk about some of the wild and crazy stuff that we get into in this business, and we do see a lot, right? And we see people kind of at every phase of their life and everything. And you wrote a post a while back about something I've never really heard talked about. And it was I got to get this right, repatriation of mortal remains. Not to get too heavy too quick, but I'd never heard anybody really talk about that. And I'm kind of curious about, maybe just tell us that story, and I'd like to hear a little bit more about that process kind of.
Yeah, we're going to start the show with making me cry. I see how you are, man. All right. It was a very moving experience for me. I'd gone through the training, and I had been in mobility for a few years, and had heard about this process called RMRs, repatriation of mortal remains. And I had some pretty close contacts in the mining world, and they deal with this a lot. And they had talked about it, and I'd never had. So we had an assignee from China to India who was unfortunately in a car accident and passed away. And so I jumped on the opportunity to work on this process of repatriating his mortal remains back to his home country. And it was a very complicated situation. They have the cultures between India and China are very different as far as burial rites and those sorts of things. We had to get this guy back to China to have him buried and cremated in his native village where he grew up. It was a big deal for them spiritually. So long and short of it was it happened. We made it work. Everything was great, and I felt so awesome that I finally had this experience of working on my first RMR. And gosh, about probably 4 or 5 weeks later, I got the invoice from International SOS, and it just hit me like a ton of bricks, man. It was like, okay, all of a sudden this guy's life is on a piece of paper, right? It's a dollar value, right? This whole thing came down to a dollar value. And what I realized at that moment is that I had forgotten about the person. I was so focused on the process and getting it done and my learning in that I forgot all about the person. I forgot about their family. I forgot about it was his boss who was driving the car when he had the accident. I forgot about him. I didn't check in with him. And it really, it hit me like a ton of bricks. And it made me realize that, you can't discount one side or the other. You have to live in this gray area. And if anything makes clear sense, then it's not right in the mobility world. And so
what does that mean, Tom? What does that mean? I want to stop because I've never heard that.
Yeah, you're always playing this balancing act, right? So we do what's best for our company, but at the same time, we have to do what's best for the employee. So you live in that gray area. And if it's best for the employee or it's best for the company without taking into consideration the other side of it, then I don't think you're doing it right. So we have the bound duty to our company, but also as humans, we have the bound duty to the other person who's your subject, right?
Wow.
So that really I actually had a breakdown at my desk. I remember sitting there and just shut my door back in the days when we used to have offices and had a meltdown. It was just a real I don't know, insightful moment to me.
How did that maybe change the way? I mean, did it have a lasting impact on you?
To this day, I don't forget it. I mean, this is one of these things that I put a post about it. It was, that was probably 15 years ago. And it has a lasting impact enough for me to post about that. I don't know, what was it, about a year ago or so that I put that post out there, and just a reminder that we have to consider all sides of every story and all sides of every situation.
Yeah. Death is so hard, but I do appreciate the fact that every time I go to a funeral, every time, I lose someone. I mean, I was at a funeral this year for a colleague in our industry, Matt Waz, and I come back with a renewed perspective or an adjusted perspective, maybe, on what's important, and I feel like it takes that kind of a thing to reconnect. Like it jars you in such a way, like nothing else does, and in a moment, kind of in a weird moment, nothing else matters in that moment. And you obviously can't sit there for too long because that's debilitating. But it really reframes everything for me, and I'm thankful in a really, really weird way. Like I feel kind of bad about almost, but like I'm almost thankful for the opportunity to be reframed in that way, and then appreciate everything I have more, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it totally makes sense, and I agree with you on that. I think if there is a good thing about funerals, it forces you to focus on that person or who that person was and what they meant to you and what they left, what the legacy that they left within you, and what part of you reflects them, and how do you how do you enhance that, or how do you show that part of them to keep them alive?
Kind of
right?
like honor that, and
you honor that, and then you can keep that part of their life on earth here, and influencing other people the way that you'd want them to do, or the way that they did while they're alive, and looking at what they left for you, what they taught you not to do. So it's profoundly impactful on everyone. I think death obviously is one of those things that we all have in common. It's gonna happen.
Crazy,
us, right?
we're all on the way. Like none of us think about it. We don't talk about it, but that none of us are getting out of this thing alive. So it's like, what do we do between? What do they say, between the dashes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, that was one of the things that kind of struck me about you that I really appreciated when we got a chance to chat in DC at ERC, was just how deeply you care about people, and I really admire the team that you've built. I had the opportunity to sit with one of them on a panel at ERC, and kind of I've just been kind of exposed to a few of the folks that you work with and on the team that you built, and I'm just like curious as a leader who's always thinking about how do I build the best team. How have you put this team together? Like how did you build such a great team?
Well, that's a again, how much time do we have?
At this point, 28 minutes.
I think the piece is that I didn't build them; they built themselves. Mm-hmm. What I did was I provide a foundation for them, and I provide an opportunity for growth. So I open up the doors, and I have the networks where I can do that because somebody's been opening up doors for me as I go through my career. And so that's my duty to pass it on and open up the doors and provide the support to the team that they need. Everybody has a little bit of a different, you have to create that trust factor, and so they can come to you, they can feel comfortable coming to you and telling you what they want, or telling you what they want to do, or you can read that. You can kind of read that yourself once you get to know people well enough and give the opportunities. I've always told the team that I'll open the doors for them, but I'm not going to walk through it. Right? It's up to you to walk through. It's up to you got to walk through the door. You got to do the work, but I'll give you the opportunity to do that, and I'll open every door that I can. And it's funny how you have these conversations with people, and they come back years later. And there was a young lady that wasn't on our team, but we'd had a conversation. She was in talent acquisition, and I was sitting in with that group, and she had an opportunity. She came back to me about 2 years later, and she said, "Tom, I remember this conversation we had, and you told me if somebody opens up a door for you, don't ask, don't question it, just walk through it." And I don't remember having that conversation. I have a million conversations. You would say, though. And she said, "I just wanted to thank you." And this was like 2 years later, and she'd found a new career path because somebody opened up a door for her, and she came to talk to me about it. And I said, "Yeah, check it out. Don't ask why. Don't think that you're not. Somebody thinks you're qualified. Somebody sees something in you. So chase that." And that's really what it boils down to. The saying of luck is the crossroad between opportunity and preparation. Yeah. I really believe in that, and whatever you can do to help prepare your team for those opportunities that come up, and then good luck to you, right?
What was there, this whole concept of opening doors, I've heard you talk about this before, and I really love it. And did that crystallize in your head at one point? Was there, hey, Tom, you there? Tom, can you hear me?
So sorry. Sorry.
You're good.
I just got a phone call.
They're probably that happens sometimes.
I just got a call, and I had to try.
No, I was going to ask you though. You talk about opening doors and things like that. I mean, was there a moment in your career where you felt like a door was open for you, or were that kind of that idea kind of crystallized in your head?
Yeah, there's a very well, it wasn't a moment, but it was sort of a period. In my first job as an auto mechanic, I was a bit of a troublemaker. wasn't the best kid in town. But the guy who owned the gas station, who had a little repair shop, saw something in me, and I took a job there as a gas pumper, and eventually starting to work in his shop and doing brake jobs and just learning from him. And he saw something in me. I still to this day don't know what it was, but he allowed me the chance, and he taught me what he knew. He taught me about, and we went on to build a business together, him and I, before I left and went back to school again. But it's that moment of somebody taking a chance on you because they see something in you. And I think that's a huge piece. And I think if everybody looks back on their life, especially if you're in a kind of a leadership type position, you find that leader in your head, or even if you're not, you find that person in your head that took a chance on you and saw something and believed in you and gave you a chance, and gave you another chance and gave you another chance. And one of the conversations I had with my mom, speaking of death, before she passed, was she was really good about giving people multiple chances, a very, very caring person. And I asked her one day, I go, how many chances does a kid get? Because my kids were kind of making some trouble. And I said, how many chances do you give them? She said, as many as they need.
Oh my goodness.
And so I kind of just rolled with that. And I think that was what my first boss, he gave me as many chances as I need. I made my mistakes along the way, but he believed in me and kept me going. And I think I have that same sort of philosophy, even though the team that I have now, there's no trouble at all. They're angels. I love them all.
Yeah.
We should all be so lucky as to work with such beautiful people. But that's kind of one of the driving philosophies I have when it comes to developing people. And as long as they want it, give them a chance to go for it.
Yeah, love it. Check in the comments. Let us know who you are, what you're up to out there. Let us know what your thoughts are about giving people chances, about people taking a chance on you. Was there an opportunity in your life where somebody kind of opened the door for you? Let me know. We got people checking in here. Richard Majewski checking in from London. What's up, Richard? How you doing? Hey, Dawn Sparling checking in.
Oh, hey, Dawn. Right down the road. She's in Boise as well. She's probably out traveling somewhere right now, but she's got a house down the road. So
love it. Yeah, that really resonates with me though. I love quotes and stuff. And one of my favorite ones is the greatest gift you can give somebody is the gift of believing in them. Right. And I think that that does so much. And then there's so many people in my life that took the opportunity to kind of take me under their wing and open doors for me and, speak well of me in a room full of opportunities and all that stuff you hear about. I just had so many people that poured themselves into me, and it's been, it's been great. And I always have to remind myself to make sure I'm honoring that contribution those people make in my life by giving those the same contribution to others, and mentoring others. Because it gets hard, right? Because life happens, and you get busy, and you got your own stuff going on and whatnot, But
you ever get back and thank them?
Yes, I do. Never enough, but yes, I do.
Yeah. I've done that a couple times over the past, and it blew them away. They had no idea they had that kind of influence on a person, and that's kind of a special moment too, when you can thank them back for what they've done for you.
100%. Like that lady that you worked with that said, "Hey, remember that thing you told me about opening doors and walking through doors?" And and you're like, "I didn't remember that, but and that's cool. That's super cool.
It's good stuff. That's those human connections,
Yeah, it's the best. Link Greenberg says, love that, Tom. Rob Zeitz checking in. Best leaders in my life are the ones who saw something in me I wasn't sure about. Yeah. One thing I've run into that's a little discouraging for me, Tom, is seeing something in people or wanting something for them that they don't see in themselves or want for themselves, and me wanting it almost more than they want it. And that can be discouraging for me, honestly. Do you ever run into that, or any thoughts on that?
Well, I think you sound a lot like my dad. Just kidding. He didn't want me to take this direction. He wanted me to take a different direction, but that was his choice, and this is mine. And he supported me in the long run, of course. But I think that's a tough spot to be in, Ben. You want something for somebody so bad, but it kind of goes back to the comment I made earlier. I'll open doors for you, but I won't walk through them. It's up to you to walk through that door, and the person, if they don't want it, there's not a lot you can do about that. And I don't know. You have to be able to move on and want something for somebody else who wants it. It's a two-way street, right? It's not just as a leader. You can do whatever you can do whatever you have the capabilities to do. But if you have somebody who's not responding, then you're kind of, I don't know, at some point you got to figure out you're wasting your time and move on to spend your energy on somebody else. Otherwise you're spending too much energy on the people you're neglecting the people that could use a little help that don't need as much energy. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
We focus on the high performers and we focus on the low performers, and we forget about the people in the middle that need that energy too.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Vinny Valverde checking in says, living and learning with Tom. This guy is incredible. One thing to add, it is important not only to support your team, but to support others in our industry.
Yeah, there's nothing truer than that, Vinny. And that's a really good point. I have it in my notes here actually on leadership and developing and stuff. My previous boss, I just got a new boss about a month and a half ago. My previous boss, she was a VP of talent acquisition, still is at Micron. And I was always blown away by how she would work on developing people who weren't even on her team, not even in her company. Competitors, people who needed some help, or just anybody, not just the people on your team or the people you're directly, associated with, but anybody that is open and willing. And like you just mentioned a few minutes ago, how you're willing to and you want it. If somebody wants it and you've got an opportunity to help them, it's our duty as humans to help each other, regardless of what team uniform you're wearing or whatever, right? That's a really good point, Vinny. Thanks, man.
Yeah. I love those relationships with people outside of your company, right? Because, they may be from a different culture, or they may be from different, like have different skill sets and different experiences, right? Because there's, inside your company, I don't want to say everyone's the same. That's not true at all. But there's you have a similar experience, right? But then you go outside, you might find somebody from like oil and gas, or you might find somebody from South America, or you might find somebody, and you can kind of, I don't know. I love that. I mean, going to WERC and meeting the people.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, that's the cool thing about this industry, right? Is we've got people from all, I work for a semiconductor company. I know people in pharma. I know people in, we're in mining, right?
Right.
And you get such a different perspective on things when you talk. You've got the same job, director of global mobility, but your roles are so different in the nuances that you have to be aware of and you have to be familiar with.
Yeah, totally. Shout out, we got people checking in here. Hit that like button, get in the comments, leave us a comment. Mike Falia checking in. Good to see you on here, Tom. Hey, thanks, Tom, for taking one for the team too, because I almost had to call Mike Falia again, and nobody would have watched that. So I appreciate you being on here today and saving everybody from another diners, drive-ins, and dives conversation. Oh my goodness!
But I tell you what, he dresses better than me. So
Mike's Mike's probably the best looking OP40 in the business there. Love you, Mike. And shout out to Mike for his yams recipe that I got, the sweet potato recipe from his mom that I got for Thanksgiving. I made.
Oh man, I bet that was delicious.
It was great. Yeah, people checking in here. Drew in here. Attitude of gratitude, 100%. This is great. Richard's got a question here. We got a question from London. Tom, you ready for this one?
I think I am. If he doesn't don't throw an accent at me. I might not get it.
I don't even know if I'm allowed to. Is that cultural appropriation if I do an accent here? Tom, comma. We're so proper over there, the Brits. Yeah. Tom, would you say an individual raises their game if they are given a more prestigious work title?
Huh.
That's interesting.
Would you say? Well, I think that probably depends on the person. Are you intrinsically driven or you're extrinsically driven? I think. I really don't know how to answer that question. If they're given a more prestigious title, will that? Or, we in our company and other companies that I've worked with, you do the work first and then you get the promotion later.
No.
So I'm not quite sure I understand that process that you're getting after there, Richard. Like, give them a promotion and then they do the different work, or.
Well, I think one thing I've heard from people as I talk to them is like, if like I don't have the authority to act
I hear what you're saying.
Or to make this change. I'm not empowered. I don't have a title or titles open doors, right? So you have people with these, VP titles because that opens doors, right? You go to a bank and everybody's a vice president for some reason, right? Those types of things. I mean, do you see that?
I think it can absolutely drive some confidence. If you, like you say, if you have a title that opens a door that you wouldn't normally have been able to open before, then it gives you that confidence to get after that, opening that door or chasing that answer or challenging that perspective or challenging that comment or directive or whatever. So on that hand, Richard, yeah, absolutely. It can have an effect on the way that somebody operates.
But I love your point is you said at our company, and this really should be true. You can say this anywhere. You do the work, you do the job, and then someone gives you a title because you're there. They don't give you a title and then you somehow like ramp up into it because all of a sudden you're inspired now to be this level. Yeah. I think that's something that's a misperception that people have, or maybe early career, maybe. is that, you know, once I'm giving this, because I'll watch people who are at this level, and sometimes, you know, they act different. Like one's taking initiative, one's coaching their peer group, right, and saying, hey, try this out. I did this, it worked for me. Like you start seeing leadership, like ball players can all be on the same team, but some people step up, and then they get the captain's badge.
Right. Yeah.
That's kind of the way I look at it.
Or they're the coach's kid and they get the captain's badge.
Yes, or you're born with a C on your chest, and that is what that is for sure. Yeah, you know. By the way, you know, born with a silver spoon in your mouth, right? You've heard this saying,
Sure.
right? So back in the day, I saw this on Antique Roadshow, I think it was. Back in the day, everyone had their own spoon. You would go to a dinner party, you would bring your spoon, right?
Oh, okay.
And
all right.
It was like, I mean, we're talking like, you know, 300 years ago, right? You bring
Sure.
your spoon to a place, right? And so you had to save up money to buy a spoon. Like it wasn't like spoons they were hard to come by, right? And so to be born with a silver spoon in your mouth means you never had to earn your spoon. You never had to go buy your spoon.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, man. I feel educated.
I'm just glad that scrolling on the internet has actually that's what I'm glad about.
Yeah.
Drew saying if they're capable of the work, yes. They're not capable of that, then they'd be in trouble. Adrian says definitely can be a confidence or morale booster. Yeah. They're very interesting. Let me ask you this though: when you're looking to build a team, I work in recruitment, so I'm kind of obsessed with what makes people great team members. And when you're looking to hire someone, what are those key traits or those things that you're looking for?
That's a good question.
Thank you. It's my first one. We're half an hour in.
You know, hey, so my dad always told me if somebody answers you by saying that's a good question, it means that the question is better than the answer is going to be.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Let me take that back off the record. I think in mobility specifically, you look for traits where somebody can pivot quickly. Ambiguity is a part of our, it's a real serious part of our. Sorry, I'm losing power on my phone here. Ambiguity is you got to be able to work in the gray areas and be comfortable in the gray areas. I know there's a lot of people that aren't comfortable. They need more structure than others. In this global mobility world, especially, I'm sure it's the same on both sides, but on the corporate side especially, there's a lot of different things going on. There's unexpected surprises every day, and you're dealing with 15 different things at a time. So it's somebody who can pivot, somebody who's agile. I look for people who are solution driven. I always ask during the interview, one of the questions I always ask is, if you have a problem, how do you approach me? And if they come and if they say they're going to come ask me a question and make sure that my door's open and they're not interfering, that's the wrong answer. The answer is you come with a solution and then we could talk about it. We may agree on it, we may not agree on it, but we're both going to learn from it, right? I'm going to learn how you think, and you're going to learn how I think, and together, that's going to form a bond between us. That's deeper too. I mean, you ask Nikki, who's on the call right now, about the struggles she had when we first started working together on why I ask questions about this and I don't ask questions about that. Right? It's you figure out how to work together and drive those pieces that are builders for the person,
Mm-hmm.
growth builders, right? If you come to me with questions, I just answer them. You're not growing. Mm-hmm. But if I force you to come to me with solutions, and then we can talk about them, then you're growing on your own. You're growing on your own terms, and we can work with that. So I look for.
I like that a lot. I like the solutions oriented approach quite a bit. One person said, I learned something a few months ago. Somebody said, bring me 3 solutions and one of them can't cost anything.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Because it really makes you think. Because as a manager, you have a budget to adhere to, right? And you're like in the third quarter, and somebody brings you a costly solution. You got to buy new software. You got to, whatever. And you're like, or you need a head count or something. You're like, okay, can I get a solution that doesn't involve me, breaking the budget and, something I can frankly say yes to right away. Can we Band-Aid this until the next budget cycle? And you said something about ambiguity, and it brought me back to a time in my career, Tom, that I was running around like a chicken with my head cut off. I was a call center supervisor. It was peak season. I'm losing my mind. Okay. And I run into my executive director's office and I'm like, I need to know this and I need to know that. And he's like, Ben, I don't have that answer for you. I need you to be more comfortable with ambiguity. And I said, but Tim, what does that mean?
And what was his answer? I'm curious.
Well, it was funny. Like I had to looking back on it, I realized how ironic that was because he's telling me to be comfortable with ambiguity and I'm asking for clarity.
You're asking for
and
clarity.
Like,
yeah.
And I'm like, this is the problem, Ben.
That's too funny.
Brakes. Yeah, I don't know what. I think he just shook his head at me and was dismissive or something, and I went about my life, But he was actually a really good boss.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah. Richard's saying you can read this with an English accent, Ben. I prefer not. Richard, English accent is something I need some momentum, a couple pints for. I can't just go into it.
You can't just do that. Yeah, or you got to be quoting. You got to be quoting Monty Python or something.
I need to be immersed in it. But I'm gonna go with a normal accent, Richard, on this one. I said I once wanted a new title to give me some credibility selling advertising. I love the company's director's response. Call yourself the blankety blank you want. And I honestly turned the magazine from a company cost to a big profit center. Did you call yourself some crazy title?
What'd you call yourself?
Yeah, Richard, what was your title, dude? Yeah, we all need this title. You'll be running around with a new title tomorrow. CEO's just not cutting it for me.
No. I'll be running a magazine before you know it.
Rob gets the joke. Can you be more specific about this ambiguity? Yes, Rob.
Yeah.
Rob's the best with the jokes. Mike Flea is enjoying the history lesson. You're welcome, Mike. This is good. Rob saying good example of how leaders can enable success in different ways. Some people wouldn't be affected by a new title. Some people would rise to the challenge. Yeah, touche. One thing I look for too, Tom, is I look for coachability. And maybe that's like one step before bring me solutions, but I'm looking for people that can take feedback and can run with it and don't get defensive when you give them a new idea or you say, gosh, I think we could workshop this and do a little better. Because that starts to build walls and you don't want to approach people and you start avoiding them.
Yeah.
But if we have trust, which is something you keyed in on before, then now we're just having this really, business operating at the speed of trust. Cause now we're just talking and communicating like crazy because there's no like apprehension about it.
Yeah,
and I love that you keyed in on trust before.
Yeah, trust. It all revolves around trust. I mean, that's the basis of everything, right? In a relationship, you don't have trust in a relationship, you've got nothing.
Yeah, and I want to switch gears here because there's another post that you made that got me thinking, and I loved it. And I'd actually heard my friend Emerson say this once as well, and it says, "If you don't have a seat at the table, you're on the menu."
I got that from Emerson. I did.
You got that from Emerson?
I did. I meant to tell you, I don't want to take credit for that quote because it was his, and it was an interesting quote, and I think everybody probably may take it in a different way. But we talked so much about having a seat at the table, and it was in the context of one of the sessions at GWS when he said that, and they were talking about being part of the strategic planning, and if you're not able to make that seat at the table, you're going to be a part of that menu where you may or may not get picked, right? Mm-hmm. And it was, to me, a pretty profound, just a profound view on it, a little more extreme than I had thought of it before. Like, if you can't make your way to finding a seat at the table or to creating a table of your own, you're just going to get told what to do for the rest of your career. And that's no fun. It's going to make it harder, and they're going to ask you to do stuff that's not possible to do. It's very difficult to do. Whereas if you had a seat at the table, you could have advised on that prior to the situation coming up and make it easy for yourself, So yeah. Thanks, Emerson.
And I read it. I mean, yeah, it was a great quote when he said that. I remember we were on like a Zoom happy hour. This was like in COVID. We were doing these Zoom happy hours or whatever. And he dropped that one and I just lost it. I was like, it could have been the wine. It could have been the delivery. I mean, he's got great delivery, but I just lost it. I was like, that's tremendous. And, and I think about a lot of folks out there who maybe aren't involved in these strategic level discussions. and they end up getting cut, or they get their program cut, or they get their headcount cut, or whatever. And you have to be in the room where it happens, that Hamilton song. So yeah, I love that quote. What advice would you give to a global mobility manager who is looking for more relevance in their organization?
Well, I could go with the Hamilton quotes if you want. We can
we can do that all day if you want.
I really love the idea of talk less, smile more. And then the next line goes on to say something about don't let them know what you're against and what you're for, but I don't really take that part of it. But my interpretation of that line is listen a lot and be confident when we talk about it. If I'm talking to you and I'm smiling, then you trust that I believe in what I'm talking about. It's a lot more engaging. You don't want to talk to somebody who's just grumpy, and you don't want to listen to that. You want to see a happy face. So you need to be confident in and you need to believe in what you're talking about. So I think that's probably the first. A lot of people want to come in and they want to make an impact immediately, and so they start throwing out ideas and thoughts. Yeah. Get an idea of the landscape before you start trying to mow the lawn, right?
Yeah.
So that's
get an idea of the landscape before you start trying to mow the lawn. I love that one. That was a good one, Tom.
I just came up with that, so you're welcome.
Good.
Right.
I dig it.
You can have it.
I love that one. Actually, when I was in the when I was breaking into the moving industry, and I was going to these military personal property forums, and I was trying to get my company, who was really not a good fit for a military contract, but I was trying to break into this program and get a contract, and everybody's like, oh, you can't do the business because you don't have a contract. And I stood up in this room full of like 100 people, and this lieutenant colonel from the Air Force was sitting right in front of me, and he ran the program. And I said, well, how do I even get a military contract? And he turned around to me and said, I can't teach you how to cut grass, son. And it just eviscerated me, man.
You never forgot it, though, did you?
I never forgot it. Lieutenant Colonel Derek Oliver, shout out to you, sir.
Figure it out. Yeah.
And you know what? I did. I went and figured it out.
You sure did.
The whole defense transportation regulation. It was like 90 pages, and I figured it out. It took me years, honestly, but I figured it out. So
I had a guy, a VP several years ago. I went to him to complain about a bunch of stuff, and I had an issue with this, and I had an issue with that, and I sat there and he listened to me for about a half an hour, and he looked me straight in the eye, and he said, Tom, all I hear is excuses. Come up with some solutions for me instead. And he wasn't even my boss. He was a completely different department. But that was one of those things where I've gone back and thanked him for that, because that was an eye opener for me as well. Like sometimes you just got to figure it out.
Yeah. Well, speaking of relevance and everything, like how have you increased the relevance or raised the relevance of global mobility within your company?
I think we'll go back to that whole trust thing, right? That's built into our priorities. We want to enhance the experience and build trust with our customers and our stakeholders. That's so important to build that trust and slowly ease your way into it. So they know you have to prove yourself, especially when you're new to a company, and prove that you know what you're talking about, prove that you can come up with solutions and create that trust. And then once that trust is in place, it's a lot easier. You give an answer and they trust that you're right. You don't have to prove the relevance of that answer or the correctness. Sometimes you do, but not as frequently, and usually not as deeply if you have that trust built with people. I think building our COVID was a great opportunity for a lot of people, especially in our industry. The spotlight shines on people during crisis, right? And you either stand up and perform, or you shrivel into a ball and go into the fetal position on the stage, right? So you have that opportunity. What do you do with that opportunity? What do you do when that spotlight? I think that was a turning point for a lot of us in a lot of ways in mobility, myself included. They look for you for answers that you don't have, but you have the connections and you have the knowledge that you can create those answers. You can find them. And then coming out of that, what do you do with that trust that has been created, that seat that you found at the table? The table changes, right? And so you have to be able to change with the table as well. But you had that opportunity. Everybody had that foot in the door to be able to push the relevance of their program and just run that through. And Over the years, it's funny. The team and I, we talk a lot. We get a lot of like weird requests, right? Like we need this, and I don't know. That's not part of my scope, but I have the connections that I can put together some thoughts for you, or put you in contact with somebody. And one of the HRBPs that I work with told me the other day, she goes, I don't know a whole lot, but I know a whole lot of people. And I think so. Networking yourself through the company to create that relevance is a huge deal too, and that also helps to build that trust. So.
Yeah, that's really great. I love that. I don't know a lot, but I know a whole lot of people. I mean, that is what it's all about. When you see your not colleagues, but other folks in the industry that are maybe struggling with the ROI on their programs, being questioned about that, or getting funding, or getting maybe benefits kind of stripped away and things like that. I mean, what advice would you give to people about how to get their programs funded and supported internally?
Yeah, I think what you have to do is start with the basics, right? You know what the company's strategies are. You know what, depending on where you sit, I sit in talent acquisition, so I know what talent acquisition strategies are. I know what the people organization strategies are and how that flows into the company strategy. So I build my strategies to support that. And you can have a clear line of sight from our initiatives to the company strategies. Now, we don't meet them all, right? But there are some that we can meet. And I think once you're able to do that, and you're able to create initiatives that support those strategies going up, or those pillars, or whatever your company calls it, moving up the chain, you're going to get more support from them coming down too, because they know that your program is creating an impact. Measurement's tough in mobility because there's very little data. There's a lot of feel goods and there's a lot of taps on the back. So actual measurements and ROI that's a tough ask.
It's tough. It's tough. It is tough. Let me ask you this, when you're looking kind of towards the future, a year or 2 years from now, things are changing so rapidly. What are maybe one or two of the problems that you think we're going to be wrestling with in global mobility in the next year or two?
Yeah. It sounds like a broken record. It sounds super generic. But this whole AI and tech thing, we gotta do better. We gotta connect. We gotta figure that out. I think a lot of our approaches are wrong on that, where there's a cool tool. How do I apply it? Where what we should be doing is I've got this process that I can fix, and how can I use AI to fix this problem, or technology to fix this problem? So some of the thought processes on that might need some adjustment. But I think that's definitely an area that we gotta get it down, man.
Mm-hmm.
And two years is probably too long.
Wow.
The other problem, and I can't speak for other programs. I'll speak for my own on this one. Is you're a victim of your own success, right? So we've done a good job, and thank you for recognizing that. We've done a good job of elevating this program within the company. The team has done the dirty work. I just get to lead them. And so then now the expectation is, where are you going to take it next, right? Mm-hmm. So we've made this beautiful program. We've got this great house that we've set up. So how do you decorate the house, right? What's next? And what got you here is not going to get you there. And so that, to me, for the next year or two, in my role, anyways, as the lead of this program, is a significant challenge. Like, how do I get it, and where am I taking it? What is the next level?
Right.
And once I can determine what the next level looks like, then we can work on a plan to get there. But I think as we succeed, the expectations are elevated as well. And so that's the challenge, is to meet that next level of expectations and exceed them as well. Right.
Yeah. Super interesting. You know what? That brings us into our final segment here, Tom. Okay.
Cool.
You like playing games? You want to play a game with me, Tom?
I'll play a game, man. Let's go.
Let's play a game.
Is there any money on it?
Yes, there is money, but you have to get all the answers correct in order to win cash money, and it may be an unimpressive sum. Okay. All right. Inflation's not been kind to us all. Tom. Here we go. We're gonna play overrated, underrated, Tom.
Uh-oh.
Okay. It's a fairly straightforward game, but there are rules. Do you know the rules, Tom?
I don't know the rules. Fill me in.
All right, the rules are this. I will give you 5 topics. You will tell me if they were either overrated or underrated. Those are the only 2 answers, but you can explain yourself.
Oh, okay. Okay. I can't
Rule
go
no-
with neutral on any of them.
You can't say properly rated. You can't say
Okay.
neutral. You can't decline to answer.
Okay.
You're pretty
I
much
can't
stuck
use
with
so
those
so
2
the
options.
typical mobility answer starts with, well, it depends.
It depends. Yeah,
I
depends.
can't
Don't count.
use that. Okay. Okay.
60 minutes. It depends. Now it's time
All
to
right.
get off the pot. All right. And the second rule is I will tell you if you are correct.
Oh,
So twist. Yes,
okay.
normally something subjective now becomes I'm the decider. Here we go. All right, first one up, overrated, underrated. AI in mobility.
Underrated, underutilized,
Underrated. Okay. Why is that?
because it's underutilized.
Okay.
I think the we'll see once we build it out when we get to a spot. I think when we get to a spot where it's actually properly utilized, or we utilize it more, we'll be able to determine whether I'm right or wrong.
Is there one like use that you could see an application for AI and mobility? Like, what would be your dream scenario?
Anything administrative, man. We've got an internal tool. It's called Mia. It's the Micron Information Assistant, and it's AI driven, and it's a little chatbot piece. And what they've been able to do is they've been able to start tying that into approvals, and they've been able to start tying that into invoice reconciliations, those sorts of things. And so those administrative pieces are so they're so time consuming, and they're so stupid. Like, why do I have to go to 3 different websites to press and approve to get into, where Mia can just tell me, hey, I understand you're working on this. Do you approve it or not? I'm like, yeah, approve it. Done. It's on it's open all the time. It's part of Teams. So I think that internally, that's an area that if we wanted to get more into AI, I think there's a lot of tools internally that people have that they don't realize they have, and they could build them out internally too. So
yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Get in the comments here. Let us know what you think. Richard says AI underrated. I think you make a great case, Tom. 1 point for Tom Wagner. All right, let's go to the next round here. Oh, overrated or underrated? Boise.
Boise is underrated.
Okay.
I think because people just don't know enough about it, right? For me, I came here, I interviewed a job before I got this one, and I fell in love with the location. I got some step family that lives up here. I knew I liked it. I didn't know how much I would like it. So to me, it's underrated. And unless you've lived here, and I think Idaho has an interesting reputation. If you look around, parts of Idaho are interesting. Super red state. There's not a lot. Most of the states, there's not a lot of diversity. But Boise is kind of a unit of its own within the state, and I would say that it's underrated.
Awesome.
But don't tell anybody, because we don't have any space.
Just kidding. It sounds terrible. I never want to be there ever. No, Richard Majewski says Boise. What is it? It's all the rage with the UK. You got to move there, Richard. No, Boise. It's in Idaho. It's the biggest city in Idaho. Is it the capital? No. Yeah. Is it the capital, Tom? Did I freeze? Did Tom freeze? Is Tom over it? Tom's like, I'm not playing this stupid game anymore. Boise, underrated. All right, 2 points for Tom. Mike Falia says Boise is legit. Did DDD, a great DDD town. Of course it is. A diners, drive-ins, and dives town. Mike Falia, crazy cat. Drew Phillips says under the Snake River, Sawtooth Mountains, Rolling Hills. Drew just Googled that. All right, awesome. Tom, do we lose you? We might have lost you. I think Tom's phone might have died. Happens. Richard says Tom's furious with me. Yeah, he's over it. He's done with it. What do we get, Tom? 2 points? Is that what we got, Tom, too? Is that the second one, Samara? All right. You know what? And that's our show today. That was awesome. Hey, tomorrow we got a special treat for you. We've got Josh Breeze, a comedian that I legitimately met on Sunset Boulevard at 2 a.m. PT, which is probably 4 or 5 for most of you, at the Comedy Store last Thursday when I was in LA. And we were talking. I'm like, I got a podcast. He's like, really? I want to be on a podcast. I'm like, okay, be on my podcast. So anyway, Josh Breeze is joining us. He is from Nigeria originally. So I was like, oh, there's a global mobility tie-in. Maybe we'll make it work. Who knows? Let's see how it goes. You can laugh at him, you can laugh at me, but definitely tune in tomorrow for that show. Same time, same bat channel. Rob says Richard Majewski, he's frozen in rage. Yes, utter contempt, I would say. Brian Rivers, Northern Idaho is where it's at. Brian, that's probably the part he was saying was super interesting. Brian, I miss you, buddy. I was just thinking about you the other day. Let's chat. Anyway, y'all, I will see you tomorrow, and I can't wait to see you tomorrow. Take care, everybody. Peace.